Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're cracking open what is arguably the darkest political playbook ever written. We're going to unpack the incredibly massive legacy of Niccolo Machiavelli and his infamous masterwork, The Prince. Now, this is a guide where the ends absolutely 100% of the time justify the means. We're looking at a historical figure whose very name literally became a synonym for every vile, cunning, and ruthless act you can think of in politics and business. He completely stripped away ethics, aiming for just one single thing: winning at any cost. This is a dark political legacy that fundamentally rewired modern politics and basically birthed modern political ruthlessness.
But before we open up this blueprint, we really need to heed a famous warning from the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. He said, "If you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss also gazes into you." We are about to explore a very deep abyss of ruthless power dynamics. I mean, this is the exact kind of thinking that inspired modern cinematic villains from Darth Vader to the Joker. So we are studying this to build a psychological defense, a kind of mental armor, not to lose our own morals. Applying these rules will absolutely destroy you, but understanding them, well, that's what's going to protect you.
So, here is our game plan to map out this descent into tyranny. We'll be covering the ultimate power blueprint, forged in corrupt Florence, rules of the dark playbook, the architect's ironic downfall, and finally, your shield against the abyss.
To truly get Machiavelli, you kind of have to look at his exact opposite. Think about traditional ideals. While philosopher kings like Marcus Aurelius believed in virtuous leadership and high morals, what we'd call the light, Machiavelli championed the dark, ruthless pragmatism. He just completely rejected ethics. He viewed traditional morality not as a virtue, but as a seriously dangerous, naive weakness that just blinds you to reality. For him, there is no inherent good or evil in the world. There is only what succeeds and what fails.
Moving on to forged in corrupt Florence, the rotten foundation, let's see how this environment shaped his highly cynical mind.
Picture this. Machiavelli was born into a jarring contradiction right inside his own home. He had a highly religious mother who believed in strict morals and faith, living alongside a deeply skeptical father who questioned ethics and religion entirely. This massive ideological clash during his childhood really planted the seeds of his duality. It created this intense cognitive dissonance that ultimately made him incredibly comfortable with the dark side of human nature. It allowed him to view morality not as some universal truth, but just as a flexible tool.
And he didn't just grow up with a conflicted family. He grew up in a wildly chaotic Italy. Florence was a republic on paper, sure, but in reality, it was a brutal dictatorship secretly controlled by the incredibly wealthy Medici family. When Machiavelli was just 19 years old, he actually witnessed the Medici hang a rebel and just leave the corpse out for weeks as this gruesome public warning. He learned super early on the ultimate price of political failure. Despite all this chaos, he rose quickly in the government by age 28, only to lose absolutely everything in 1512 when the Republic fell. He was blamed, he was tortured, and he was exiled.
Next up, rules of the dark playbook, the pillars of tyranny. Sitting in that bitter exile, desperate to win back favor from the very family that tortured him, he wrote The Prince.
Machiavelli basically divided how the world operates into two massive forces. First is fortuna, which is luck and unpredictable circumstances, kind of like the weather. You simply can't control it. To survive it, a leader needs virtù. Now, actually scratch that, don't confuse this with the English word virtue. In Machiavelli's dictionary, virtù is a ruthless drive and a chameleon-like adaptability. If your strategy worked yesterday, it might not work tomorrow because fortuna changed. You have to be willing to shift your shape and discard your principles the very second they no longer serve your survival.
He argued that to truly embody this adaptability, you can't just be one thing. You must master two distinct masks. You need to be the lion, using brute force, aggression, and terrifying violence to scare off the wolves. But the lion is blind to traps. Therefore, you must also be the fox, cunning, deceptive, and able to spot and evade the traps laid by your enemies. A ruler who only relies on force, they'll eventually fall into a trap. And a ruler who only relies on tricks, they'll eventually be overpowered by brute force. You literally have to embrace both of these monsters within you.
To prove this point, he idolized a real-world figure named Cesare Borgia. Borgia needed to pacify a chaotic new territory, right? So what did he do? He sent in his most fierce lieutenant, Dell'Orqua, and gave him total, unchecked authority to use brutal, bloody violence to bring order. Once the city was pacified and the citizens were naturally seething with hatred for this lieutenant, Borgia visited the city, feigned total shock at the brutality, and had his own lieutenant publicly executed. By sacrificing his right-hand man, Borgia played the hero, erased the people's hatred, and secured absolute forced peace. It is the ultimate bait and switch.
This ruthless logic leads directly to his most famous debate of all time. Is it better to be loved or feared? Machiavelli concluded that, hey, it's wonderful if you can be both, but if you are forced to choose, a ruler is far, far safer relying on fear. Why? Because he viewed humans as fundamentally selfish. Love is a fickle emotion. People will abandon you the exact second it serves their self-interest. But fear? Fear is maintained by the absolute dread of punishment. It never fades. However, he warned of a really vital line to walk. You must be feared, for sure, but you must never ever become hated. Hatred is what sparks rebellion.
So how do you avoid hatred while committing these terrible acts? Well, Machiavelli noted that we are, by our very nature, visual creatures. We judge by appearances. Therefore, a ruler doesn't need to actually possess good qualities like honesty, religious devotion, or mercy. They just need to construct a flawless, unshakable illusion of possessing them. You must look pure and perfect on the public stage, while secretly orchestrating betrayal and chaos in the shadows. Let the public see the beautiful symphony, but hide the blood on the instruments.
Let's look at the architect's ironic downfall, a crumbling facade. Listening to all of this, you would naturally think the mastermind who mapped out the dark arts so perfectly would be a legendary conqueror himself, right?
Well, let's look at the reality. The ultimate irony of this whole story is that Machiavelli's own political career was a spectacular failure. He wrote The Prince specifically to impress the Medici family and win back a government job, and they completely ignored it. I mean, think about it. Who would want to hire a man who just publicly exposed all the secret, dirty tricks of power? He wasted his later years in frustrated obscurity, drinking and chasing women, and died just a month after one final, crushing political defeat. Afterward, the Pope banned his book entirely, claiming it was literally written by the devil. Machiavelli never gained the power he craved. His name simply became a lasting historical synonym for pure evil.
Finally, your shield against the abyss, real-world defense. Let's explore why this 16th century tyrant's manual still profoundly matters to you and me today.
Understanding this dark political legacy serves a brilliant purpose today, even if we have zero interest in becoming dictators. Knowledge of the dark arts doesn't make you a bad person. Applying these ruthless, Machiavellian tactics in your own life will destroy you psychologically. You will pay a massive internal price for it. But studying them, understanding exactly how the fox and the lion operate, that gives you a powerful defense mechanism. You will stop being naive, you'll start spotting the modern manipulators hiding behind flawless appearances in your workplace, your relationships, or society at large, and you will actually be able to protect yourself against them.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought based on everything we've looked at today. Machiavelli exposed the absolute worst of human nature for the whole world to see. So now that you hold his blueprint to dark power, will you use it as a shield to protect yourself and those around you, or will you let the abyss gaze back into you? Thank you so much for exploring this with me today.